For my number two, Requiem for a Dream. Yeah, Dan Aronofsky directs. Heavy film. Jared Leto, former, 90s pin-up. Your man Marlon Wayans.
Yep.
From such awful Wayans Brothers films as How to Drink the Juice in the Hood.
Don't be a menace to South Central.
Yeah.
Drinking your juice in the hood.
Scary movie franchise.
What was the one where he's a baby?
I don't even want to know.
Do you remember that one?
I just remember seeing a poster and thinking that's awful.
He pretends to be a baby.
That's crazy. That seems like something that they would parody in their own films. That's how
Yeah.
it is. White chicks, the kind of reverse blackface film. Anyway, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a heavy film.
It's a tough watch.
The thing is, the funny story about this film is I couldn't sleep one night. I was staying in my brother's room and I saw that. I said, I've heard of that film. I'll tell you what, I'll stick that on and see if I can get to sleep.
Oh,
Terrible
dear.
decision.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
That's a heavy film. There's drug abuse from everyone there, particularly harrowing, which was mentioned on our Facebook page earlier. It's the story of Jared Leto's character's mum, who's trying to. Gets a cold call from a TV company, sort of trolling her into being on this TV show, which probably won't happen. And she's trying to fit into this red dress. She gets these dodgy sort of speed pills to do it, and it's a heavy film.
It's a really uncomfortable watch.
It's a real FU film.
Yeah.
Because there's no happy ending, and that is the case when it comes to drug addiction so many times. So fair enough to Dan for that. He went on to do Black Swan and The Wrestler,
which are great,
hard hitting films. The guy doesn't pull any punches.
No, he doesn't.
Especially not in The
really
Wrestler.
Interesting filmmaker.
Well, The Wrestler is fake punches, so that he doesn't pull any punches.
Well, Black Swan was my favourite film of 2010, or whatever year it came out in.
It's a good one.
I loved it. Yeah. No, good choice. I mean, it is a horrible watch, but it's like a car crash. You can't really look away.
But as well, in that film, there's a lot of high points for them with the drug abuse. It seems to be going so well for them.
Yeah.
I can't remember the young girl. What's her name?
Jennifer
Connelly. Yeah. Yeah, she has a hard time as well.
Yeah.
They all have a bit of a hard time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a tough one. Okay, so that was your number two.
Sure.
My number two, and I almost feel like we're cheating on this, and if it fitted better into the subject, it would be number one because it is such a fantastic film. But I needed to get it in there. Is City of God. Okay. And City of God, I suppose there's no real individual character that's suffering from drug abuse in it. For people that don't know, it's kind of like a Brazilian gangster film in the slums of Rio de Janeiro, and it's set over several decades, and it follows the story of one man who's kind of like growing up there, and it expands from little tin roof shacks into the sort of bustling streets that is Rio de Janeiro. I think it is a film of drug abuse, but it's not an individual story. It's how drug abuse has affected an entire community, almost an entire city, and you sort of see the drug wars. It starts off in a little neighborhood and expands and expands and expands. Yeah. I just think it's an absolutely fantastic film. I remember going to see it in the cinema and being absolutely blown away by it. There's some fantastic roles in there. Seu Jorge is Knockout Ned, who went on to star in Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou doing David Bowie covers. Oh yeah, he's really, really good in it. The guy who plays Little Z is also very good, the adult. In fact, the actor that plays the kid, Little Dice, and then grows up to be Little Z.
He's a badass.
Yeah, he's just a complete and utter ruthless Leandro Firmino, I believe is the older. Yeah, well, that's the older one. I don't know who the younger one is, but it is a film of drug abuse in the sense that it shows its impact over like a whole community, because it does basically gut out this community that used to be kind of about football and religion, and then it just becomes a place where you can't really walk down the street without running into gang warfare, and that shows on a wider scale.
That's a really interesting choice for this topic.
Yep.
Yeah, well done.
Yep. Thank you.
It's not affecting the people directly. But
well, there's no character that is suffering particularly from a drug addiction. I don't remember, as I recall, but drugs is the motivation for all the violence in the latter.
Okay, so my number one, I've gone with Trainspotting from the Irvin Welsh book. It's a great adaptation of the book. Have you read the book?
Yeah.
It's cool.
Book's great.
The book's a sort of loose grouping of short stories revolving around these sort of loose bunch of friends and acquaintances in Edinburgh and Leith. It's fantastic. The film is just... It's probably my favourite film, actually. Stars Ewan McGregor and a friend of the show, Ewan Bremner.
Yeah.
And a couple of other...
Robert Carlyle.
Exactly. Another friend of the show.
McKidd.
Kevin McKidd, who's done pretty well, actually, for himself, I'd say. McKidd.
Kelly MacDonald, who's doing superb.
From the Boardwalk Empire.
And Brave, Pixar's Brave.
I've not seen that one.
Right.
She's good though.
Yeah, she's in it.
So many great moments and stories, funny nuances in the film. That's another film which kind of highlights the ups and the inevitable downs of heroin culture in this film. And
I remember when it came out, Danny Boyle was criticised because it was like, oh, this film glamorises drug use, and his his go-to response was, there's a scene in it where a character dives into a toilet full of excrement to retrieve
sedatives.
Yeah, and what part of that is glamorising it? And it doesn't glamorise it at all.
That's funny because Irvin Welsh is he plays Mikey Forrester, who's like a really scummy drug dealer who sells him those sedatives, and Ewan McGregor of course says, for all the good they've done there, I might as well stuck them up my arse.
That's a good.
That's
good
my
line.
best Ewan McGregor impression you're going to get today.
That's not bad.
It's good. So that's my number one, Trainspotting, fantastic film.
Very good.
I could watch it time and time again. Another great soundtrack. Lots of Iggy Pop, Brian Eno, of course, Born Slippy by Underworld, which is an anthem which would not be out of place in Human Traffic if it was a slightly heavier film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my number one is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas on our Facebook page, which I encourage you to search for and like and follow and all that good stuff. Somebody said you can't use that because it's not about drug abuse. And
what's it about then?
Well, exactly. Well, there's no moral to the drug use in it, I suppose. You know, they take drugs. It doesn't. He still goes about his job. They can still drive around without either getting into a horrendous crash or being arrested at any point.
And it's hard to drive through backcountry.
Backcountry, absolutely, and through Las Vegas. I just love it. I think it's just a really, really striking film, directed by Terry Gilliam, who's, you know, as a member of Monty Python, he can do no wrong in my eyes, but also as strong at performances from Depp and Del Toro as I've ever seen. I think they're really suited for their roles, and they're really, really strong. And, you know, adapted from a book, which I love, and it's so rare that you get a film where you prefer the film version to the book. I think, and with this it's tied, but they're both up there as, you know, my favourite book and my favourite film.
Well, that's how I feel about Trainspotting as well.
Oh, fantastic! And Trainspotting's a great book and a great film. I didn't put it in my list mainly because I thought it was a little too obvious.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. No, I'm sorry. That is not a...
I mean, if Ewan Bremner's listening, he's going to appreciate the nod, although I'm sure he's trying to shake off Spud.
Well, I mean, I still remember him for his role in Alien vs. Predator.
I know. But, that was... Where's the Oscar?
It would be like Hitchcock. Hitchcock never got an Oscar while he was making films. He only got it as a lifetime achievement, and Bremner will get one for her.
Wouldn't it be funny if the Oscar just burst out of his stomach one day, like an alien? That'd be good. He wouldn't like that though.
No, he'd hate it. He wouldn't care.
He'd like the Oscar.
He'd be dead.
He'd hate the death.
Yeah. So Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I just think it's filmed like a bad dream in the way that sort of Terry Gilliam could do. It's got fantastic cameos. Christina Ricci pops up in there. Cameron Diaz is in there as well. And I just think it's really well constructed. Hunter S. Thompson's writing is very difficult to bring to the screen, as seen in The Rum Diaries last year, which, it was a fine film, but it just didn't quite hit it. Whereas Terry Gilliam really kind of nailed the scenes where he's like in a swamp and there's reptiles eating each other, and the voiceover is perfect. I think Johnny Depp's, whenever I read Hunter S. Thompson's work, I hear Johnny Depp's voice in my head as I'm reading it, and so I think it's all just constructed very, very well. I mean, nitpicking, I suppose there is no moral in terms of the drug abuse, and maybe it's not a film about drug abuse, it's a film about people on drugs, but maybe it's not about drug abuse, but they are definitely abusing their bodies with all the drugs that they take.
Getting away with it as well.
getting away with it. And again, we do not condone drug taking on this podcast.
What a terrible message to put out as your number one, Michael.
Well, it's a very interesting film, I think, and I enjoyed it a great deal. So
at least Ashton Kutcher and Sean William Scott learned something.
Did they?
They found out where the car was. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
There you go.
I'm still waiting for the sequel of that one, but... Alright, so that was our top 5. So just to run through mine again, it was 5, Dazed and Confused, 4, With Nail and I, 3, Basketball Diaries, 2, City of God, and 1, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Good stuff.
What, and you want to go through yours?
Yeah, I just went for Blow again, Johnny Depp. Number 4 was Human Traffic, Danny Dyer from The Market. Dude, Where's My Car? 2, Requiem for a Dream, and Trainspotting. I think everyone should go and watch Trainspotting again, actually.
Well, funnily enough, I watched it about this time last year in America.
Really?
And it
With
was
subtitles?
on Netflix. It didn't have subtitles, but what it did do, it took me about 45 minutes to realise this, but it was every now and again, it was dubbed.
Ever so slightly dubbed.
Ever so slightly dubbed, yeah. It was like the same words, but I think they just kind of took the emphasis off of the accent.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that isn't right. That isn't how he said that, or that's just weird.
Doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it was a very strange experience.
Standout performance from Robert Carlyle as well.
Yeah,
Francis
I like
Begbie.
It's the first film where I really noticed Peter Mullen as well, and he's one of my sort of favourite British actors of the go right
Who does
now.
he play in that?
He plays Swanee. No, Mother Superior.
Yeah, that's
I beg your
Swanee,
pardon. Yeah.
Drug dealer.
I think he's great, and saw him in
Can I start you with some garlic bread, sir?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm sad to say you did not meet my expectations.
What's in the paper?
Can you hazard a guess of what you might have missed out? You see, I feel I'm going to read this and you're going to be like scrabbling to reevaluate your list.
I almost went for Pineapple Express over Dude, Where's My Car, which is just a silly film.
Yeah, I like Pineapple Express quite a lot. It's worth saying there were a lot of films that didn't make the cut for me. I had Gridlocked with Tupac and Tim
that's
Roth.
a great film.
That very nearly made it on. Also, Trainspotting was definitely nearly there.
That's got Thandie Newton in it as well.
Yep.
Gridlocked, yeah.
Yep. I almost went with Go, which is kind of the American version of Human Traffic, which I quite like.
Take it or leave it.
Also, Ivan's XTC. With the total bastard Danny Houston in it, playing a strung out druggy Hollywood agent, and also Human Traffic was one of the ones that just missed out.
He's a bad egg, that Houston. I've heard.
The film that I'm really gutted that you didn't get into, starring a man who we haven't yet mentioned, is Half Nelson, starring Ryan Gosling as a strung out teacher.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Yeah,
that was an obvious choice. I'm glad that I didn't.
Well, I would have been delighted if you had.
I mean, 45 minutes is almost too short a podcast to talk about that performance. Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen that, it's early Goosey Gosling going from ugly duckling to beautiful goose of Hollywood. Not Swan. Beautiful goose.
Was it intentionally left off your list, or did you just forget about it?
No, it was intentionally left off.
Okay. I mean, you've got a good list there.
Yeah, I like that film, but it's not in the top 5.
Yeah,
it's simple as that.
Well, I was wrong.
A great soundtrack by a band called Broken Social Scene, actually, for that film, which I really like a lot. So worth a look if anyone's following these films, definitely.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling doesn't pop his shirt off enough for me, but yeah, another great film. Yeah, it reminds me a bit of the Basketball Diaries with the sort of slummy relationship. But yeah,
good.
Not on the list.
Give me my 20,000 in cash.